welcome back to my channel. Today I am starting my craft show video for 2023. Today is September 4th, it is Labor Day, and I pulled out some of my miscellaneous yarn. I have like a bunch of like bulk colors of yarn under the bed still, but I just took out the little skein so I would be a little less overwhelmed with what I'm trying to do. Because honestly, I am so anxious and stressed, not about the craft show necessarily. I mean, it's been a long weekend and I have to go back to work tomorrow, so that's definitely not helping. Apologies if you can hear my washing machine going. It is kind of loud right now. But I figured I need to go ahead and get started on everything. I filled out the application yesterday. I do have my spot saved. There is a wait list, she called, and wanted to make sure I was still going to do the show, and I am. So I figured I better at least pull everything out. I have a little bit left over from last year, just a couple of headbands and a couple of hats. That is it. I have to make everything else. And I'm doing not a luxury line this year. I'm going to use my bulky yarn again for most of it. I am going to do some scrunchies with the leftover thin yarn that I had from last year. So my goal here to start is to just use what I have before I go buy anything. And I need to figure out what the heck I want to make. I'm honestly thinking just some basic bulky hats, maybe some like fun colors to give a throwback vibe like I talked about in a previous video, I think. And I don't know, I'm just gonna keep it simple this year, keep it affordable. You know, we're in a recession type of situation, so I want to make everything affordable for Christmas time. And I honestly kind of want to make some like little amigurumi like monsters or something, just something cute to have on the table as well. So this year I am doing the same craft show that I did last year. It's a 2-day show at our old courthouse, and I've done the show 3 or 4 times, and it's usually pretty lucrative for me. Never know how it's gonna go though, you truly don't. So there's that. Last year I just did 1 table. This year I'm also just doing 1 table, and my mom actually makes these Santa Clauses, and she asked if she could share a space with me. So she is paying for half of the space, and she's going to use a table for her Santa Clauses. Now she might sell out day 1 because she's not making a lot, and if she does, then I'll have a second table that I'll either need to fill up or whatever. So I will go ahead and say that the craft show itself is $90 to get into. To reserve your spot, it's $90 for 2 days. So that's pretty good. It's $45 a day. That's about average for a craft show. If you want to get like a good craft show with no like direct sales, there's not going to be any MLMs or anything there. It's all crafts, and it's 3 levels of crafts. So it's a great show. It's really fun. I'll try to get a little footage this year if I'm feeling a little confident, but we'll see. And I am deciding to rent the tables this year. So renting tables is $8 per table for both days. So it's honestly, it's $8 a table. I'm gonna get 2 tables. Like I said, my mom's splitting it with me, so she's gonna pay $53 and I'm gonna pay $53. So it's kind of a steal. Like, all I'll have to do is sell a couple of hats and I'll at least make my money back on the show, which, you know, if I put time and stuff into it, I'll have stuff to give away as gifts to friends and family, which is what I usually do. So I'm not going to be invested in the show a whole lot. Now I will have to buy some materials, but I'm setting a budget of $200. So I don't want to spend more than $200 on materials. I do still have a lot of materials, so I am lucky in that. And hopefully this will get some of my inventory out of my house and provide me more storage for things that I would actually like to store in here, such as decorations for the holidays and stuff like that. But that is just like the game plan, to set myself a budget of $200 for supplies. So you got to do that couponing. I have to figure out what I want to do. I am going to do some pom-poms for pom-poms, so I'm going to need to fit that into the budget. I do have a little bit of leftover fur, which will get me some pom-poms, but I'm going to want to have more. And yeah, so yarn, pom-poms. I still have leftover tags. That should be enough to tag all of my stuff this year. But if I do another show next year, I am going to have to invest in tags again, which will be an interesting thing. I haven't bought tags for like 5 or 6 years now. So I do like to tag my items. I think that's very important. Like I said, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do this year. I do think I'm going to keep it basic, and I'm just going to take you along with me on what I decide and how the journey's going. So the craft show is November 11th and 12th. So I have some time. It's September 4th. That's like 2 months. I have about 2 months to get everything ready, and I think that's plenty of time with what I'm deciding to do this year. But I am the kind of person that just like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, what if it's not good enough? What if it's not what people want? But you just never know until you go into it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna stop talking now. I talked a little bit about where my mindset is and how I'm just like lightly getting ready. And we're just gonna go with the flow. Hopefully I'm gonna chat it over with my friend who is like the girl that I bounce ideas off of. And yeah, so I guess I'll just keep you updated on how it's going throughout the couple of months that I have, and then on Showtime, and then we'll talk about how much I made, if I did good, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so I'm gonna stop blabbering now. Bye. Hey guys, it is the Thursday before my craft show that comes on Saturday and Sunday, and I haven't updated you since I started this video. And I just want to start this by saying, don't be like me. Don't try to start something very, very far in advance and then just like procrastinate until the week before, because that's what I do every year for the craft show, and every year I regret it. So I've been on vacation this week and I've literally just been working on knitting. This is what I have so far, which granted is a lot more than last year. However, last year I did luxury knits, so the yarn was smaller. I'm using chunky yarn, guys, and I still, yeah, but I'm just gonna work my little fingers off today, and then tomorrow I have to go set up the table and all of that fun stuff. And I have pom-poms made as well for the pom-pom bar, but I'm trying not to feel stressed because, like, again, this is just for fun. I am not doing this like to pay my bills. Now, it would be nice to make enough money to pay for his upcoming vet bill, which is on Monday. But again, I just would like to make my money back, which I figured out how much I have put in so far, which I have gone over the amount that I set for myself. In total, including the booth space and the tables I rented, I think I'm about $350 in, which isn't terrible, but yes. That's that. I'm making a hat right now. I am going to run out of elastic to make as many scrunchies as I wanted, which is fine. That's good on me for paying attention to how many elastics I had. And that's really all I have to say. I have 3 varieties of hats, 2 headband varieties. I have some kids things, some scrunchies. It's going to be very casual, kind of like last year, but hopefully we make some sales. That's really all that it comes down to. We make some sales, we have some fun, and we pretend like this isn't gonna happen next year, but it's absolutely gonna be the same situation next year. So I'm gonna get back to work now. Hi guys. I am just sitting here eating my dinner. I just got home from day 1 of the craft show, and honestly, I was gonna scrap this video after how today went. So I have been doing craft shows since 2015, and specifically the craft show I did today was the first craft show I ever did, and the reason that I decided to keep doing craft shows because it was always so good and lucrative, and I thought everybody involved was super kind, supportive, and all of those good things that somebody running a craft show should be. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit of how it went. So, like I said, day 1 of the craft show, you can go set up on Friday night, which is what I did. I went last night and put my tablecloth on, and I got all my like boxes and everything put on the table, and all I needed to do this morning was fill in. That's how I usually do it. So I went and I got there around 7:45. The craft show started at 9, but I was sharing the space with my mom, as you know. So I walk into the ballroom that I am in, where my table is, and the first thing I notice is the table right next to me is knitwear, knit and crochet wear, and her aesthetic was pretty similar to mine. Now, I want to preface this by saying I don't expect to be the only knit and crochet person at a craft show. Not anymore, not these days. Back when I started in 2015, I was the only person of my kind at these craft shows. They always had the little old ladies with like the dishcloths, but I was the only one. You could walk through the whole building and I would just stand out. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything. It was a different time. People went through COVID and they learned new hobbies and skills and whatnot. So I get it. I'm not going to be the only one there anymore. I expected to see several people that were there last year that were also knit and crochet brands, okay? But I walk in right next to me. Me and this girl lock eyes. And I hadn't put out my stuff yet, but she told me later when she came over to talk to me, she noticed my mannequin heads and she just knew. And she was at this craft show last year. Last year was her first year doing it. This was my 4th total year doing this craft show. And she was downstairs in a hallway. Let me paint a picture for you. This is at my city's old courthouse. So they don't use it for court anymore. It has offices in it. It's a huge building, old, grand marble everywhere. It's beautiful, right? It is 4 levels. So they fill every single level with crafts. They market this craft show as a 4-level craft show. And I'm talking levels. Like it's big, each level. And 4 levels of crafts, and they have them on the lawn, okay? So, and it's only handmade things. There's no MLMs, there's no anything else. It has to be handmade. So we lock eyes, mind my own business for that moment. I'm fuming inside. I make a comment to my mom. I go and I put everything on my table. I just get it all sorted out. I got some footage. I'll show you guys. It looked great. I was just using one table. My mom was using the other table. It looked great. So in the footage, you can see my table, and then there's a table next to mine. That's my mom, but we're in the same booth space. And the booth spaces are like 10 feet-ish. So that's her. And then you can't see in the footage because that's I'm not going to film other people's stuff. Right next to hers is literally like, she has hers in an L shape with my mom and then her other table. So it's like literally right there. She comes over to say something to me, which was so kind. She was so sweet. She was really nice, very talented. Great aesthetic. I'm so excited. We like talk. We're both like, yeah, this is like the best one we ever do. This is so disappointing. She's telling me that when you sign up, okay, so when you sign up for this craft show, like ideally I would fill out the form tomorrow and I would turn it in, and that would save my same spot so you could be in the same spot. She said that's what she did. She told them she wanted the same spot. And she shows up today and suddenly she's not in the same spot. That's when she sees my mannequin heads and she's like, great, do I even want to set up? And my first thought was, great, I'm not coming back tomorrow. So another thing, the old courthouse currently, it has 4 streets going around it. You know, it's downtown, it's a dead center. So 4 streets going around it. 3 of them are closed for road construction. That's just how my town operates. So 3 of them are closed. So any street parking there, you can't use. So usually the show is hustling and bustling all day, both days. Like people are like scooching along because there's so many people. It was not like that today. It was dead slow. And I'm chalking it up to the construction, but when there were people in there, it was super uncomfortable to watch people walk right by my booth, go to the booth right next to me, less than 5 feet away from me, and buy something from her. I already have imposter syndrome, okay? So I already have imposter syndrome. And I'm watching people walk by my booth and go buy the exact same thing from her. That was painful. And she came over at the end of the day and she was like, that was super hard. You know, watching people like buy from your booth and not mine, but she did way better than me. I already know, and she was just being kind. She did way better than me. I'm gonna just say that. And like I said, I don't expect to be the only knitter or crocheter at the thing, but I do expect it to be organized in such a manner that we're not right next to each other. If you're making me put on the form what I'm going to be selling, you have the knowledge of what I'm selling and where you're putting me. And I asked the girl, I was like, so did you go and see who was in your spot from last year? And she said, yeah, it was somebody, this is their first year doing it. And I was like, their first year? The spot that she was in, there was a lady there last year that did like ceramic Christmas trees and stuff. So I'm editing and I just want to pop in here and say, this is not an easy craft show to get into. In fact, the director of the craft show, she called me back in August and asked if I was still doing it because I didn't turn in a form last year. Because usually you can turn it in then and you can save your spot, or if you just turn it in again. But she called me in August at like 10 o'clock at night And I'm not even exaggerating. It was like 10 o'clock at night. She called and asked if I was still doing it because all of their spaces were full and they had so many new people wanting to get in. So she was just calling everybody to see if they wanted their spots and she would reserve them. So this isn't an easy show to get into. So when new people come, they get like the last pick of the litter. That's just how it goes. So I just want to put that in here, and because like it's not the new lady's fault either. Like she didn't ask for that or anything. But I just wanted to give that background. She was super cool. I made friends with her. I go to her studio and paint stuff sometimes. But she already said last year she wasn't going to do it again. And so I knew I was going to have somebody new next to me. But it wasn't somebody new. It's somebody that's been there. And they wanted their same spot because she had prime location at the other spot. So anyways, midday, lunchtime, the girl, she goes and she gets some lunch. And there's food trucks outside, so she goes outside. There's also booths and vendors outside. It was a perfect day to be out there. And she comes back up and she's like, so I went and got my lunch. And there's a knit booth downstairs selling the CC beanies. She said, they're legit the CC beanies. I went over and looked at them. They had the CC tag and they had the store tag on them, showing they were store-bought. I need a bite of my hamburger. Oh, that ticked us both off. We were like, really? This is supposed to be handmade only. It is only handmade. That's all you can have. So the rest of the day goes by. It's so slow. I am miserable the whole day. I've made like 10 sales, maybe. Like, I made enough to pay back the booth spot. I did not make enough to cover my supplies as well, which is crazy because I want to put into perspective last year, I barely made anything. You guys, if you can go back and watch that video and see what my table was and how much I made, I barely made anything. I made twice as much this year for sure. And so I was like, we're gonna do good. Last year I made almost $1,000, which is still a little, like very little, but I also had very little to bring. The previous 2 years that I did it back in 2015, 2016, I made about $3,000 both years at this craft show alone. So that's going to put it into perspective a little bit for you. Usually I expect to at least get how much I paid for the booth and how much I paid for the supplies back and make a profit. I did not make a profit. I wasted my whole vacation prepping for this, which, you know, this was an unforeseen thing. Craft shows, I always say it, they're unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to get, okay? Totally fine, totally fair. I don't think anybody did as good as they usually do because the lady that is on my other side, she's been doing this craft show for years and years and years, and I know of her from the craft show world here. She usually does great. She was even slow. And she was like, yeah, it's really slowed down. After lunchtime, there was basically like nobody. And then the end of the day rolls around and it's like 3:55, the craft show ends at 4, so I pack up all of my knit stuff into my totes. I'm taking them home. I'm not coming back tomorrow. I've already decided I'm not going back tomorrow because toward the end of the day, the person that puts on the craft show, who I don't know like on a personal level, but we've interacted. She knows like what my booth is. She knows where I am, that sort of thing. And we've communicated, you know, through email when I put in my application. She's called me on the phone to ask if I was doing it again, you know, so we know each other. She comes up. She goes straight, she walks into the ballroom and goes straight for the girl next to me who's selling the same thing as me's booth. And she starts talking to her. And this girl is great. I really liked her. If it were anybody else that was like super disrespectful or whatever, I would have had a miserable day even more. But she was super cool and she understood the situation we were in and how it was going to be shitty for both of us. So she just tells her how it is. The lady asks her, so how'd you do? And she goes, not great. You put me right next to that girl over there. And she was like, oh. And they have this conversation. I couldn't really hear what was going on. I was trying to listen, but then people would come over. And so I didn't hear the whole thing. She tells her, the director of the craft show is like, well, if I can like make it up to you and you decide to come back next year, where would you like to be? I'm like, she's gonna ask her like what booth spot she wants? Okay, whatever. The lady leaves. The end of the craft show, I'm packing up everything. The girl comes over and she's like, so are you gonna come back tomorrow? And I was like, no, I'm probably not. She goes, I'm so sorry. And she was apologizing. I'm like, girl, it's not your fault. But she was telling me that because after she talks to the girl, after the director talks to the girl, I'm like, she's gonna come over and talk to me, apologize. I make eye contact with her when she turns around, walks right on by me and doesn't say a word, goes to the lady on the other side of me. I felt so disrespected. I can't even tell you how that moment made me feel, because you know you messed up. You can only say sorry that this happened to me as well. I was in my spot I was supposed to be in. I was in the spot I was in last year. I was in my spot. But you still put somebody next to me, so it affected both of us in the same way. Doesn't say a word to me. And so the girl comes over and she's like, and then I was like, yeah, I kind of feel a little disrespected that she didn't even come talk to me. And she was like, I know. She was like, I thought she was going to turn around, walk over to you, apologize. And when she did it, she was like, and I was like, it's okay. I'm not going to come back tomorrow. Like, I think this is my last year doing craft shows, which it is. I am into retirement now. No more craft shows for good. But she was like apologizing. I'm like, it's not your fault. And she was just telling me, like, the lady was like, oh, I don't know how that happened. It must have just been a screw up. Where would you like to be next year if you had a choice? Blah, blah, blah. Sorry you had a bad day. And then just walked away. So really, that lady was just like not who I thought she was, for sure. So I pack up all my stuff and I'm carrying down my tote and like a stool to my car, and I was struggling a little bit. So this lady holds the door for me and she was like, oh, are you not coming back tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, I don't think so. There was a little bit of drama today and it kind of turned me off, and I think I'm just gonna like not come, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, what happened? So, you know, I was a little ragey because the lady didn't come talk to me 10 minutes ago. So I just like told her, I was like, yeah, they just put another girl next to me, and then there's somebody here that's not selling handmade. Oh, the girl that's next to me told the director, she was like, yeah, and there's somebody outside selling the CC beanies. And she was like, oh, you know, I asked them about it, but like, it's fine. And we were like, no, it's not. Mind you, people are walking around all day with these CC beanies, and me and this girl are like, did you just buy that outside and put it on? Because that sucks for us, because like we missed an opportunity because they're right outside. But nonetheless, I'm telling this lady and she goes, oh yeah, she's a little bit. And she went on to tell me how the director is, and it just put everything into perspective, into a light to me, like, you need to retire. I kind of feel like I made my mark. I had some regulars come in today and they were so excited to see me, and I was like, yeah, I think this is going to be my last year. But yeah, that's my little ranty rage. I wasn't going to film it. I wasn't going to post this video, but I think it is important to show you guys you don't always know what you're going to get at a craft show. It sucks, but it happens, and honestly, it's nobody's fault except for the person who didn't say sorry to me. Like, it's not even her fault, but like, she didn't say sorry to me. And I think that's what hurt my feelings the most. Like, she went to the lady on this side of me, talked to her, skipped me, and then went to the other lady on the other side of me. And I was just like, okay, that feels a little shady. But nonetheless, it was a day. Wasn't a good one, but it was a day. And it's over now. I'm going to go in the morning and pack everything up. And I'm just going to store it in my garage and move on with my life. I will go ahead and tell you guys, I put $348 into the show, and I didn't do the math, but I think I made about $200. So I'm going to return the things I didn't use, so that'll drop a little bit in how much I spent, but I did not make my money back this year, and that's okay. You know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and if you're not willing to invest in it or take a loss, then you shouldn't do it. I will put that out there. Don't do it if you're not willing to take a loss and put your own money and time into it, because I spent my whole vacation prepping for this. So literally, I didn't get a vacation because I worked the whole time, and I spent $350, okay? So I had to be willing to do that and sacrifice that and know that this could be the outcome, and it was, and that sucks, and that's okay. I know in life that that's how it works, but yeah, I just want to be transparent with you guys. If you're planning on doing one, you know, it could be a risk. You really have to know the conditions. I've always preached that from day one. You have to know the conditions. If it were super hot today, I probably wouldn't have done that great either. If all of the roads were open, we probably would have been busier and I probably could have done better, but everybody's avoiding downtown right now. Guys, that's really all I have. I'm gonna eat my food now because I'm hungry, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.